Yo, what's going on, guys? Another beauty day in the roofless garage. Today I wasn't gonna do a mini series, but I got outside and it's really nice out, and I just started doing stuff. Wasn't sure what I was gonna do, but I started messing around with bending some metal, bending some square tubing, which kind of works out because this is kind of how I plan to rebuild my motor mounts. I started with this. It just worked out to a 22.5 degree bend. Something popped up on Facebook and was like, hey, this is how you can bend square tubing into certain angles. And I'm like, well, that's cool. So I figured, I'm gonna try and do that because of where the cross member goes, and then where the upper coil spring or upper control arm mount is. A 22.5 degree angle won't work there. So then I came up with more of an A-frame. Obviously this is going to be a lot shorter and whatnot, but I don't know if you guys noticed on my first video in the introduction, which I apologize for, I completely forgot about the whole landscape thing while I was recording. But anyways, in the first video, these bushing tubes were welded to, or barely, they were kind of more or less stuck to the plates mounted on the engine block, which I think would have worked, but I think this way is going to work better. So what I plan to do is I will kind of take this, I'll try and half it, but then I'll do a half moon notch here and weld it into place. Yes, I know they're a little long, but they're going to need to be trimmed down once I get the motor back in place. I did end up finding a transmission, so I'm not going to be using the C4. I'm also not going to be using a T5, but I am going to be using a manual transmission. I gotta order that shortly, very, very, very shortly. I found it through LKQ, and when it gets here, that'll be another video for you guys. Didn't really have to do anything. There's no adapter plates, there's no nothing. It is literally just a manual transmission. I bolt the flywheel on the motor, I bolt the clutch to the flywheel, and throw the manual transmission in place and hook up the clutch line, and everything is hunky-dory. So there you have it, another bent A-frame. I think I'm just gonna have to clearance a tiny little bit inside these joints, and I should be able to obtain the exact same angle as this one. Probably gonna weld them together later. The puppy dog's outside with me, and I don't want to hurt her eyes. Oh, also another thing, these bushing cup things, they obviously come with bushings. If you ever assemble them, and then they're very difficult to take apart. I usually use a vise, but I don't have a vise at home. So, because I had these assembled, what I ended up doing to get these apart, they come apart really easy once the center piece comes out. So I drilled a hole in my table, I stuck the bushing over it, made sure the pin, or the center piece of the bushing was in the center. I took a socket that fit in here nicely, and I just smashed the center out right through the table. It worked. Another one of those things that you kind of have to do when you work outside. I don't get the pleasures of having a vise, press, that kind of stuff yet. As long as I keep having days like this, it's perfect weather out here. Okay, so I figured out how to get these welded in the exact same angle. And the cool thing, like, I have exactly 1.5 inches across the top here, and also exactly 1.5 inches across the top on this one. I clamped them together. They're literally squished together all the way down, which means these angles will be exactly the same. They're going to be as perfect as I'm going to get them. Well, both these pieces are stuck together. They're ground nice and flat on both sides. This means they are ready for. Basically, I made a mark in the center of the bushing, the exact center of the bushing, and then because these are 1.5 inches wide, I went 3/4 of an inch to each line, and then went all the way around the bushing with the line. These lines that are 180 degrees from each other, that is kind of the middle of the pipe, and all I did to get the circular mark was line the middle of the pipe up here, and then I slid it over until it was about center, and then I drew each line individually, but then I just buttered them up together to make sure that this fits symmetrically. Oh, there you guys have it. Pretty rough opening. It's a decent fit. This is the second one. The first one is done already. Welded in place. The hole in the center there is for grease fitting. It's in. It's cooling down before I put the bushings in. Once it's cooled down enough, like, I can kind of touch it, but not quite yet. I'm gonna put them in the engine bay. I got them all welded together, and that's kind of how they're gonna sit. I think they're sitting a little high right now, but without actually knowing where the motor is gonna go, I can't actually do anything with them right now. But with just some scrap metal laying around, I was able to start making my motor mounts. That's it for this mini series. So don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe button, and the bell button for notification every time I post a video. Oh yeah, follow on Instagram @RooflessGarage. We got lots more stuff to do on this. Stay tuned. See you next week.